What's good, everyone? This is Justin Just Rock Ramon from the Just Trek podcast, where elevation is our recreation. I cannot wait for you to watch this very special episode. It was our first ever live podcast show with a guest panel and real-life audience. It was filmed at the podcast's 3-year anniversary party here in Los Angeles. Shoutouts to our sponsors, the 52 Hike Challenge, Highlander Adventure, and our venue partner, Party Beer Co., for all of your support. All right, let's get to trekking and get into this episode. Oh my goodness, I've never done a live podcast show, guys, or ever done this in front of an audience. Oh my goodness. I'm kind of winging it right now. Kind of winging it. Oh man, how do I even start this? So before I bring up the guests, I definitely want to share with you guys briefly the podcast origin story, because I feel like a lot of you actually haven't heard that. So I want to take you all back to March 2020, back when that world flipped upside down. And, you know, just it was the reckoning of what we all thought we knew. And I remember it was, I think, mid-March. And I remember it was the World Health Organization declared COVID-19, a.k.a. the coronavirus, a global pandemic. Like, what the hell, guys? Like, I'm sure a lot of you might have been planning birthdays then or planning, like, a vacation. But, no, you couldn't do that. You had to cancel all of that. And it was like, just such an eerie time, you know, because as the weeks started going by and by, businesses started getting shut down. The hospitals were at capacity. The streets were empty. And I remember they started closing our local parks, local mountains, local trails, green spaces. And I was like, yo, I didn't even know you could close the outdoors in the mountains. Like, how is that even possible? And I just remember, like, as I was trying to just process this week by week, day by day, you know, I was very immensely upset because, just like I'm sure a lot of you were, I turned to the mountains and the trails for a lot of self-reflection, for healing, to improve my physical fitness, to fortify and improve my mental health as well as too. And I know you all felt that as well. And I couldn't believe that they closed it. And I have some notes here, sorry. Yeah, so then I was like, I had this really strong thought in my mind. I was basically like, if I can't be in the outdoors, I'm going to talk about it, share my story, along with other people's story in the community, and elevate those voices. And I thought, like, how can I do that? Maybe a podcast. I'd never even been a podcaster before. I never worked in radio. I never worked in journalism. But what I have a lot of is passion, and I pour that into anything I do. Before I was a hiker, I was a hardcore dancer, event producer. A lot of people here know me from the breakdancing world, the hip-hop dancing scene. Hopefully they throw down a bit later. Or maybe I will too, after some drinks. We'll see. God, where was I? So I was like, okay, why not start a podcast? I don't know how to do this. I did my due diligence, researched the equipment. And then I started first interviewing just friends that I first started hiking with. And my first guest is actually to the right of me, episode 1, Mark Nieto. So I just started with my friends first, and with him, we just started hiking in the Malibu Mountains. It was Coral Canyon, Point Doom, and then we eventually found Sandstone Peak by accident for sunset. And I know a lot of you hear us always say Sandstone forever, and we rave about it all the time. Right, Matt? Yeah. No? Okay. So Matt over there is the Sandstone Shaman, part of the Just Trek crew. Love Cafe. Give him a round of applause. This is his first pop-up. He's serving veggie wraps and cacao pie. And where was I? Yeah, so I first started interviewing my friends in my crew, and then started reaching out to some other individuals that I followed on Instagram. And then I started interviewing a lot of the founders of hiking groups. And then the show just kept growing and growing each year. And then now we just have such a diverse array of guests, from environmentalists, conservationists, authors, bloggers, outdoor entrepreneurs, and even just creators and artists who have like a really strong affinity with Mother Nature. And it's been such a wild ride, honestly. It's been the biggest blessing. I'm really grateful for this hiking and outdoor transformation. It's connected me to some of the most wonderful people out there in LA and Southern California and even beyond that. And I cannot believe that we're here 3 years later, y'all. 3 years later. It's been a wild ride, and it's really special. Obviously, it's special to celebrate the anniversary in the mountains on the trails, but it's great to bring you all off trail here at Party Beer Co. Shout out to our venue partner. And just share this moment with you all. And I cannot wait for you all to learn about some of the most special guests that we've ever had on the show, because each panelist has actually been on the show. Hey, Mark, can we adjust this? Oh, that's actually good. All right, so we're gonna do this intro real quick. So the first person up, who we got? All right, check it out. This individual is an ultra trail runner, peak bagger, mental health advocate, host and producer of the She Runs Trails podcast, and is the founder of Wellness on the Trails. She goes by Daisy Martinez, AKA Elements of Daisy. Let's go! All right, next up. Oh, God, okay. That's LA, y'all, right now. All right, next up. This individual is an off-trail explorer, wildlife photographer and videographer, artist in residence of the Angeles National Forest, and is the creator of the YouTube channel, Parliament of Owls. His wildlife videos have been watched by millions all over the country and featured in many national news outlets. He documents our local bear celebrity, Wilford the Bear, and also our mountain lions, Limpy the Lion. And without further ado, we have Robert Martinez, AKA Parliament of Owls, rocking the P22. R.I.P. P22. God, that was a tongue twister.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
All right, last but not least, this individual has been the LA Times lead journalist and reporter for travel in the outdoors for the past 20 years. She is a SoCal-based hiker, major advocate for the SoCal Great Outdoors, and is the former editor of the beloved publication The Wild, which is the LA Times dedicated outdoor newsletter. We have the one and only Mary Forgione. Let's go! Oh my goodness. Let's test your guys' mics. How you doing? How you feeling?
Testing.
How does it
Like
sound?
since I was a kid.
To the people in the back, how's the volume? Give us a thumbs up if it's pretty good.
Woo!
Yeah?
Woo!
My goodness, this is really happening right now. All right, let's get into it. So I obviously mentioned your guys' intros, and I want to get into it because after this, we're going to host a live Q&A. So as we're hosting this, everybody in the crowd, you're going to have an opportunity to think of a question to ask the panelists or to each individual, okay? And I just want to say a little something in addition to what I said. Like, Daisy was episode, I think 20 or 21? So. And she's just been the most beautiful spirit, like such a major supporter. So I'm very grateful for you. We got Robert over here. This is my first time meeting him, actually. Sometimes this happens with the guests. Like, we don't meet each other till like many months later or on the trail I run into them. But yeah, like, Robert, your work is absolutely incredible, and I can't wait for people to learn more about what you document and what you provide for the community. And then Mary, like, your episode 41, one of the most special episodes I've ever had in the show. Like, your enthusiasm, I aspire to be like you later on. Like, seriously, thank you. Like, your energy throughout that podcast is like, I really felt it, and I felt like our banter, we could have gone on and on and on. So I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so I'm going to ask this first question. We're going to start it off like this to each of the guests up here. What makes, well, actually, to run it back, this panel is actually entitled The LA Great Outdoors because each guest up here embodies that sentiment in their own unique way through what they do in the community and what they provide. So this first question is to each one of you. What makes the LA Great Outdoors so great for each one of you personally, and what aspects about our local scene just made you really fall in love with it? If anyone wants to take that question first, go ahead. All right, let's go, Daisy.
All right, thank you, Justin, for having me today. I think we are so blessed being here in Southern California and the diversity of trails and terrain that we have access all year round. We have the San Gabriel Mountains, the Angeles Forest, the San Bernardino National Forest. We have the Santa Monica Mountains. So right now that our big mountains have so much snow, we can still go and drive an hour out to the Santa Monica Mountains, check out some amazing waterfalls, some beautiful trails. We can go down to Cleveland National Forest. You can go to Joshua Tree, Death Valley, the Sierra Nevada. So I just feel that we are so blessed of the diversity of trails that we have access within like less than 3 hours drive. And I think more people should really take advantage of the access of the natural places that we have access. And for me personally, I'm a ultra trail runner, and the place where I love and I feel we're so lucky to have is the Pacific Crest Trail. And if you're not familiar with it, it's a trail that connects from the border of San Diego in Mexico all the way to Canada and Washington. And yeah, like we here within California, we have so much trail of the Pacific Crest Trail. So I'm just very grateful to have the PCT so close to me.
Thank you for sharing that answer. Who wants to go up next? Mary, Robert?
All right, I'll jump in. Oh my God, how can I follow Daisy? I just feel like this is my backyard. I came out here about 40 years ago from New York City, and where I was living. And I remembered calling people. I went on a night hike with the Sierra Club. They still do them Tuesday and Thursday nights. Anybody can go, they're free. I went on a night hike in Griffith Park, and I was absolutely blown away. And when I called friends in New York, they're like, well, is it like Central Park? I'm like, it's nothing like Central Park. There's like coyotes. It's beautiful. And you get to see the whole city laid out. So that was my introduction to hiking. Then I got to go on more and more trips and more and farther out. I agree that it's the diversity. Like I can go to the desert, I can go to high peaks, I can go do Baldy, I can go to waterfalls. And there is just so much here. And I think Justin and I share an enthusiasm because I just want everybody to get off their couches and go do something. I mean, LA is made for the outdoors. It's like going to Disneyland and not going on a ride, not walking around and not seeing anything. I mean, this is the place. It's free. It's your backyard. So, yeah, I'm kind of sold on all of it.
I know you could talk about it for eternity.
It's true.
What you got, Robert? Because you experience it in a very particular way.
Very different way.
Yeah, I know. I can't follow both of you.
Just
Anyways,
be you.
I've always been intrigued by wildlife in our forests and always knew they're out there, but yet we seldom see them ever, yet they see us. So it wasn't until about 11 years ago I discovered trail cameras and people doing what I do now before me, which inspired me. One being Cougar Magic. Have you ever heard of Joanna from Cougar Magic? She inspired me to look for mountain lions. I just wanted to get a glimpse of a mountain lion that I know I would never see in person. So once I got that glimpse of a lion on video for like 5 seconds in broad daylight, I just became obsessed and opened this whole like floodgate of me wanting to get more cameras. I'm like, well, if that's 5 seconds of that lion's activity, where else do they go? And 11 years later, I want to see that kind of about all of our wildlife, not just the mountain lions, the bears, the bobcats, the deer, the hawks, the owls, just everything. I just want to see more and more, and I'm just so fascinated 11 years later, like what's going to happen next? Like what else can I see? It just drives me further and further to get to more remote areas. And discovering these remote areas and seeing undisturbed parts of the forest really made me fall in love with the forest, and seeing what I get to see when people aren't involved in disturbing it, whether it's hunters, hikers, bicyclists, which I'm glad people get outdoors and do. But I'm really, really lucky to get to these spots where nobody goes and see these animals undisturbed by any kind of human activity and just doing what they want to do on any given day, any time of the day. So that's really what made me fall in love, is just to really get out there and just explore further and see more and more and more. And at the same time, spread advocacy and educate people about lions, bears, and especially let them know that they're more afraid of us and not fear them, but understand them. And I'm living proof that they don't want to harm us. I've been in their territory for 11 years.
11 years,
minutes
y'all.
away, had countless sightings. They just want to be left alone. They just want their space, which in Southern California is critical. They need space.
And I want you to tell them, I actually shared in the adventure compilation on the latest episode, what was the most aggressive behavior that you encountered? Because it was very shocking when you shared it. Which animal?
It was a raccoon, I believe, right? Seeing me? Yeah. I was like jumping down this little 5-foot rock. I looked back and there's a raccoon like pounding his paws in the ground and hissing at me. And that was probably the most intense encounter I've ever had, a raccoon. Even with the bears, they just want to flee. The one time I had a bear grunt at me, he was like 100, 200 feet away. But I think the fact I stood there in awe looking at him, he didn't like me being there during mating season. So he pounded his paws down and gave me a grunt. So he gave me the warning, and I wasn't stupid. I took it and left. So, because I know I can't outrun a bear. Nobody can.
Robert, you live a wild ass life out there.
Only in the wild.
Only in the wild.
Pretty mild at home.
And Mary, the wild publication. Everything's wild.
Everything's wild. So wait, I want to ask Robert. So do you mount your cameras?
Yeah, they're all motion activated.
That's
I get asked a lot
awesome.
about how close were you.
Because
I'm like, I'm at home, so I'm miles
You're
away.
showing me all the places I've been, but I never see the wildlife.
Yeah, I'm
ever.
there all the time, like wondering, like, can't you just give me a glimpse? You know, like you owe it to me, one glimpse, please. I don't see anything.
When
all
I
these
first
years.
saw that very famous photo of P-22 and the Hollywood sign, I was like, oh my God, I have to find out how this happened. And I did not realize, I was so naive. Steve Winter, I think.
Yeah, he's
took
been
the
doing this
photo,
since-
And he just mounted cameras.
Yeah.
And he said, I had a camera out there for 3 months. I looked at, every image and I didn't like it much. I went back. I thought, let me do it one more time. And after another couple months, but it's not like you're not there. It's completely,
Yeah.
it's such a different experience.
He's been doing that for like 50 years,
Right,
I think.
right.
So, yeah.
So anyway.
He went
okay,
through a lot getting
interesting.
that picture and had, I think, 3 cameras stolen in Griffith Park. So,
Oh, wow.
not surprising at all. Yeah, he talks about it openly.
Yeah.
He lost a few before he got this
But
iconic
interesting.
shot right there. So, which I've done the same thing. I've lost quite a few, actually.
Oh.
And if you want to support Robert, as you can see, he has his own booth back there. He's selling the wildlife prints.
Thank you, Justin.
I think I mentioned it earlier, but his actual mountain lion photography has been featured all over LAX airport, the terminals.
Oh, yay.
Very cool.
Thank you for your service.
All right, moving on to the next question. I want to make it more contextual right now because we've been all collectively been going through a lot the past several weeks, this past winter season. So what are each of your guys' feelings and thoughts towards the unprecedented rainfall and the massive winter storms that just slammed our region and brought us SoCal's first blizzard warning in decades? Like when I first heard that, I'm originally from the East Coast, Baltimore, Maryland. I thought I was back at home.
Right.
Like I grew up in the blizzards. I grew up next to my radio waiting for a 1 hour delay for school, 2 hour delay, or just being closed if anyone's from the East Coast over here. But yeah, we've all collectively been going through it. And it's been the most intense ever since I've been here since 2004. So what is your guys' overall perspectives and thoughts towards like the most recent like winter storms and just being slammed by all these weather systems? Let's go, Mary.
I've been out in it a bit, mostly in the Santa Monicas. The Angeles Forest was closed for a very long time. At first, I was super angry that the rain, I know we need the rain, that the rain kept us off the trails and so many places closed. And I think now there's going to be a lot of assessing. I'm really fear for the condition of the trails. Santa Monica suffered, got super battered. Fire areas got super battered. And, it's like anything else. The Forest Service, the National Park Service, they don't have all kinds of money to rebuild and they rely on volunteers. So my biggest concern right now is the, what the trails are like, the quality of the trails, can we pass? I've been on a couple, I know Malibu Creek, I think there are 2 places where the bridge is swept out and you can't really get out to the old MASH site or you can't get places. So that's my biggest concern.
My first thought is enough already. I know we need water, but I'm like up to my neck literally in water. So I know we're in a drought, always in a drought. But this rain is, for me, like what I've been doing for the last 11 years, I've never seen so much rainfall and water flowing through the canyons, which only at one point were only like game trails for animals. Now there's like a stream of water going through there. And I lost a few cameras because I took it lightly and I couldn't get to those cameras because some of the roads were obstructed by the rain. So it's been the most intense winter I've ever seen. And man, I can't wait for it to kind of like slow down a little bit so I can see things go back to normal again. And I've seen a change in the animal activity also. Like they're always going somewhere, but I just don't know where they're going right now. So I've never seen this much rain since 2017 for like my repetitive hiking routines, my trails and my canyons. This is the most I've seen. So I can't wait for it to kind of slow down.
Someone who's born and raised here in Southern California in LA, I am so over it. And not just because it's like raining all the time, but man, the seasonal depression is like real. Like I've caught myself not being able to run as much or be outdoors as much as I normally am. And I catch myself feeling, sad and back to the times where I felt like I did go through very severe depression. So I have realize like, man, we do need the sun and how beautiful it is and important it is to have sun and not take these days for granted when we do have sunny LA. And the other thing that worries me, because we're not used to having this heavy snowfall, is the safety of like Mount Baldy. Mount Baldy is a mountain where a non-winter season I climb day, night, sunrise, sunsets all the time. It's my favorite mountain. But I'm not a mountaineer. I do not go there when there's snow. And I feel like a lot of hikers, they're like, I'm an advanced avid hiker. I've been hiking all my life or all these years. I know what I'm doing. I use my micro spikes or whatever. And it's a whole different thing. And I think right now it's important to, as hikers and people who enjoy the outdoors, to educate yourself of how weather works and how it impacts the environments. And especially when weather here, it might be sunny, but out in the mountains, like right now, it's going to get hot in Mount Baldy, which means avalanches, right? The snow's going to start melting. So just really understanding, just because it's sunny and it looks like clear, like I'm good, I have my gear ready to go Mount Baldy. But really educating, I think people should just take the time to educate themselves when it comes to these unusual circumstances of weather, and that's what I hope for now.
And for everybody who may not be familiar with Mount Baldy, it's I like to say when on our episode with Mary Forgione, it's our local Mount Everest.
Yeah.
It's the tallest mountain in LA County at 10,064 feet. It's an iconic summit. There's so many different routes to experience it. And what Daisy said, in the wintertime, guys, it is a completely different monster and beast, which is why it's actually rated like top 3 deadliest mountains in the country, because of the accessibility in the city mixed in with the inexperience of people that just want to get out there and explore. Like, I started getting into my aspiring mountaineer journey. I'm like, oh my God, this shit is real. Like, I have to really lock in and really like have the proper gear and practice with it first, not just rent the gear and do it. That's how a lot of these search and rescues happens and deaths. And yeah, Mount Baldy and, you know, the taller peaks too, like San Gorgonio, Ontario Peak, Cucamonga Peak. Yep. Those are real mountaineering routes in the wintertime, which is like, and for only the experienced.
I want to echo what Daisy said about the depressing part. I didn't cover that either. So I usually go hiking like 3 to 4 days a week, which I'm so thankful to do, having a family with 3 kids, working a full-time job. Wow. But since December, with the rain and all that, everything's just been pushed to the side. If I get to go once a week, you know, I'm lucky, and my camera areas are limited because I can't get access because of the rain. So yeah, it's been super depressing. Lack of exercise and just being outdoors and appreciating just being out there and not being bombarded by rain or the thought of, you know, landslides and trees falling on you. So yeah, I feel the same way. I've never had this in my 11 years of not being able to do my normal routine. Therefore, I've been sharing a lot of older videos lately because it's hard to get out and get new footage, or if I do, the animals just aren't there in the rain, or the cameras have been knocked over or waterlogged to death. So yeah, I feel the same thing as you. It's not the usual winter I've ever experienced, ever. So
it's historical. We're living in a historical time, winter season wise, and there's still a lot of snow that's going to be in the mountains of the San Gabriels until until end of April probably. Right.
At least.
And like what
more water flowing.
Yeah, what Daisy said, like that's a lot of. It's a recipe for avalanche conditions on the Baldy Bowl, especially. All right, so the next question, since you're all Angelenos for the most part, or have been here for quite a long time, what is the one must-do experience that every Angeleno or SoCal outdoor enthusiast should at least do once in their lifetime? Go ahead.
Okay. I say catch a sunrise on top of a mountain. And the reason why I always tell people a sunrise over a sunset, how it differs, is a sunrise, you really have to earn it. And you go through so many obstacles along the way. The first being your alarm clock. Going at 1, 2 in the morning, you're so tempting to hit that snooze button, or even earlier. So that's the first obstacle. The second obstacle, you get to the trailhead, and you're the only car there. It's pitch black, and you're just like, yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. But you get over that obstacle, and you're like hiking, and you're hiking in the dark. You start hearing noises. You start freaking yourself out.
Hallucinating.
Yeah, you just really think the worst. Like, I'm about to be somebody's meal. You know, the fears of the outdoors, of the wildlife. I actually wrote a post of how to do a sunrise, but we'll talk about that later. But when you get to the sunrise, you catch the dawn, and you get to the top of a mountain. All that thing you just went through, all those obstacles throughout the day, and you catch that beautiful sunrise, a rush of gratitude of like, damn, I'm one of the very few people that get to see this beautiful sunrise. And it's so rewarding because for me, it gives me a reminder of a beginning of a new life. There's going to be challenges, there's going to be obstacles day to day, throughout different years, or different times of years, but you can always start all over. And I believe that a sunrise is that. It's life giving you another chance to do life all over again. Because one day, that sunrise is going to be your last sunrise. You just never know which sunrise is going to be. So taking that time, I really encourage you to catch a sunrise somewhere on the top of a mountain, because it's really rewarding. Yeah.
Anywhere in particular you like to catch these sunrises?
Yeah, my favorite sunrise is Telegraph Peak. The best sunrise I've ever seen was on June 13, 2020. It's actually the day that my boyfriend and we went on our first hike together, because I want to see how serious he was. So I was like, you want to catch a sunrise?
Hi, Cubby. Hi, Cubby.
Telegraph Peak, the reason why it's so beautiful there, because you see Baldy, so the reflection of the sun reflects on Baldy, so you have that glowing glow on Baldy. Then you have Cucamonga and San Gorgonio. You pretty much have a 360 view of all the area. You have the desert, the high desert there. I think it's pretty safe because you go up that Baldy road up, and then you do the single track. Just go with somebody, know the trail. Go in a daytime. You want to do a sunrise, go in a daytime first, do the trail, get familiar with the trail. Then go with a friend or someone, get the lights and everything as a sunrise. And then the second best place I recommend is Cucamonga Peak. If it's overcast here in LA, that's when you know you'll get that clouds over the view over the clouds. So it has to be overcast here, like really cloudy, and that's when you get that view that you're over the clouds. And it's so beautiful. Cucamonga, oh my God, so gorgeous. Yeah.
I just had flashbacks of Telegraph Peak with Matt over there doing the Fool's Traverse Challenge, which is an 11 peak endurance challenge. Daisy was our guide, and we're trying to finish this challenge. And we got to the top of Telegraph Peak, and we just like fell on the ground, and we looked like our soul was snatched from us. So it's part of the 3T, so I always call it terrible, terrible, terrible. And sorry, you brought me back to that moment that happened. All right, anyways, moving on. Robert or Mary, what is that one must-do experience that every Angeleno or SoCal outdoor enthusiast should do
I would
once?
say to at least try to go off trail. I know where I'm at in my area, there's a lot of carved out trails maintained by restoration crews, which is a really nice thing. But some of these trails are just full of people. It's like a herd of cattle hiking at 8 in the morning, talking really loudly. So it's not really that wild to me. It's like walking through a parking lot on the way to a concert. That's why it's like, this is not wild. So if you can, and if you're not scared, go off trail, but not just into the brush where you're stuck neck deep. There's game trails. You just have to be there on foot in person to see where one pathway leads to another, where they connect, where it leads to a ridgeline, goes down to a beautiful, spacious creek that people don't normally go. Even if someone's been there before, it might not be the typical trail that's been carved out and maintained. So just try to go off trail once in a while and think about Poison Oak. Considering that, or where you're stepping, I step off trail a lot, so my hiking boots don't last more than a few months. And there's always the chance of spraining an ankle and poison oak and all that. But if you can go off trail and experience nature in that sense and maybe have a wildlife encounter, whether it's a hawk, a bear, or a bobcat. If you see a mountain lion, I'm very envious because hardly any of us get to see them. And if you have, you're lucky. But just go off trail and really explore nature and just be wild for a little bit and try to go where people don't go and where you don't hear the sound of other people coming up the trail and all that, just to maybe have a wildlife encounter. And if you get to see a bear, I want people to actually have their own bear encounter so they can believe what I've been preaching for years, how they just want to be left alone. They just want their space. My experience is they just want to flee within seconds of seeing me. If I get to record them for a few seconds, I'm really lucky. So I want people to just go off trail and experience nature and hopefully have that kind of encounter that I've had, to really know truly that we coexist and they are way more afraid of us. And that's about it. Just get out there and get wild.
You want to say something, Daisy?
Yeah, Jesse and I have an inside joke. Every time we see a faded trail, we say that's a secret waterfall. And the reason why is because once we were down in the middle fork behind where the Cucamonga saddle, and we saw a faded trail. We actually went and took it, and it did lead to a waterfall. So we always have that inside joke when we're running. We see a faded trail that leads to a secret waterfall. So yeah, you just never know.
Faded trails lead to magic.
Yeah.
The carved
Extra
trails,
adventure.
it's cool if you want to be safe and say hi to other people and fist bump people on the way out. But if you want to feel like nature and be wild, you got to go on those faded trails, like Daisy said. Take a chance. You'll believe me, it opens up to nice little remote areas, or like a 10-foot area that's open. That's where I put my cameras. That's where animals stop. That's where you're probably going to stop and take a picture and just appreciate it. So just get out there and go off trail once in a while.
Mine is so easy. I think every Californian should get to the top of Mount Whitney. There is no way to drive there. You have to walk. There are several routes. You can take 5 days if you want to. You can do it in a day. It's it's like 11 miles one way, 6,000 feet again. When you get to the top of Mount Whitney, you stare into the heart of the Sierra, and it is like no other feeling. Again, 360-degree views. And you kind of start to understand California in a different way. Maybe you're thinking about people who came in covered wagons. Maybe you're thinking about Native Americans who lived there, or you're thinking about people who worked to protect it. Whatever you're thinking, it is amazing. And the first time I did it, I try to do it every year, whether I need to or not. The first time I did it, I was completely unprepared for the experience. It's the 405 freeway. Everybody's trying to get up Whitney. But you can always find a quiet little spot or go at a certain time of day, and it's spectacular.
Oh my God, Mount Whitney is the most spectacular area, most spectacular mountain. If you're not familiar, it's in the Eastern Sierras, which is about a 4-hour drive north of Los Angeles. Tallest mountain in the continental U.S.
Yep.
Stands at 14,504 feet. Like she said, you can do it as a 21 or 22? 22-mile day hike. Oh God. Or overnight, or you could backpack it. And I did it once back in 2019, and my God, it was the most overwhelming and most gorgeous day I've ever lived in my life. That sunrise at trail camp, probably one of the most magical sunrises I've ever seen in my life. And then somebody in my group got injured, and I was stuck on the mountain for 22 and a half hours. Oh. So it's it's a story of extremes for me. And I actually interviewed that girl that was injured, episode, I think, 12 on the Just Trek podcast. Wow. But yeah, thank you for bringing up Mount Whitney. That I know a lot of people. Raise your hand if you've done Mount Whitney here, actually.
Nice.
Oh, damn.
Nice.
You all are some mountain goats. Seriously, mad props to you. And if you're curious, you guys should all at least try it one day. It, regardless if you reach the summit, it's about the journey. It'll be a spiritual experience nonetheless. All right, so clearly, spending time in nature, hiking, exploring, we do so much of it for over several years or even decades on this panel. And what I also love about this panel is just the diversity up here. We have an ultra trail runner, an esteemed journalist, a wildlife photographer. This is so representative of Los Angeles in the melting pot. We're so lucky to have you all up here. And what I want to ask you, it's a bit deeper, but how has spending extensive time in nature just impacted your overall life? What has it taught you? Okay, I know, take a moment if you guys need to.
I'll go first because I have the shortest answer. No. People do ask me about that, and it's like breathing. It's like somebody asking you, oh, do you enjoy breathing? How's the air? Are you loving this? I mean, to me, it's just, I'm kind of like you. I'm out there 3 or 4 times a week, so it's kind of seamless into my life. What I get, it has just shaped who I am, and I'm not sure how. In the very quantifiable ways, I can tell you that, I started hiking in Griffith Park. That's where I met my husband. We got married on a hike. So it has completely kind of circumscribed my whole life. I still hike with people that I hiked with 40 years ago. We're very close friends. That's what I love about what Justin's doing. Because when I started, it was just like one thing, like if you went with the Sierra Club. And now people are realizing, and I love that you realized it during COVID, oh my God, people need to get out. They need to get this like free therapy, and they need to know each other. I mean, there aren't like bars where hikers hang out that you can go and meet them. So I am loving this event, and I hope you do it again. But anyway, so I got like, I guess I would say I got like a lifestyle out of it. And I don't even know who I would be if I weren't, all those years of hikes and peaks and friends and love and all of it.
Wow. Yeah, it clearly means so much to all of us. And even for myself, just, you guys can see the impact. I started a podcast and a hiking crew. A lot of people here never thought this was going to happen. Like, I'm sure they're very shocked. So I can't still believe, like, I'm doing this up here. I've never done this, a live podcast.
You're also really good at this, by the way. You have, like, the person... I just write words, but you have the personality and I mean, you make it so easy. I love talking with you.
I try my best.
I agree with that, Justin. She said.
Well,
It's
you
my
guys
first
make
time
it
ever
easy
doing
for me.
this too. So my first time too. So.
Justin is the reason I
I'm
have
nervous.
a podcast.
Oh!
He influenced me by a lot.
Say the name of it again.
She runs Trails Podcast.
Yeah. She has some of the most badass trail running women out there, not just in SoCal, but even nationally, right?
Not yet, but we're working on
nationally?
it.
Working
Working
on
on a national. Nationally.
They're
well,
known nationally,
wait.
for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, around different states in the United States, yes. That's what you meant. And not international. Sorry. My
It's
brain's
all
not
good.
working.
All right, so I myself want to stop asking questions because I'm sure a lot of you in the crowd want to connect with the guest panelists up here. So now is going to open it up for the live Q&A. If you have a question you want to ask to the panel in general or to a specific guest, we'll share a mic with you. And Mark, how do we want to do this? Do we have an extra mic? Raise your hand if you would like to ask a question or share any thoughts with anyone up here.
I did want to share what the Outdoors has, the last question
us two didn't answer.
Okay, I just blanked out.
That's all good.
So we're going to skirt. Okay, run it back. Let's go back to you guys. My bad.
Oh no!
I'm so sorry.
Okay. What it's done for me is really given me this drive. I compartmentalize my life with family and my kids, but then in my free time, for me time, this is such a passionate hobby that I just can't stop doing. 11 years later, I just want to get out there more and more. And as I get older, I'm hiking further and further, and my 50-year-old bones are like crying, like, dude, come on. But anyways, it's taught me get outdoors, stay active, keep your muscles and bones moving, keep your mind stimulated, and just wonder what's going to happen next. What else might you see? If you saw that, which you couldn't imagine 11 years ago, what else is possible? So that's what it's taught me. Never give up, keep trying, and just keep wondering and imagining and sharing and educating. That's all.
Woo!
And for me, I always tell people the mountains saved my life, and I'm not even over exaggerating. I met the outdoors when I was in a very challenging point in my life. It was back in 2015, and I was a road runner, but I got really injured. I got really bad shin splints, so I couldn't run, and I started hiking, and I was really depressed. I was diagnosed with clinical depression, and I was suicidal. It was really bad. I was pretty much in my point in life where I didn't see a point of living. I'm a mother. I had a kid at that time. He was 8 years old. I really felt like my life was better without him. I didn't feel point of living, going to work, driving, coming back, paying bills, living paycheck to paycheck. I just felt like, what's the point? What's the point? I did not see any point of living. And being outdoors, I started hiking by myself a lot of hours. I did Mount Baldy. A friend took me up Mount Baldy, and after that, I just got hooked. I heard about the 6-pack of Peak, the 52 hike challenge, and I started doing this. And boy, has those trails heard me cry, scream, yell, all the emotions I can have. But what the trails have taught me is self-love, gratitude, and confidence. Being out on the trails and just appreciating everything that's around you, realizing damn, I'm so lucky to be out here. Life is really beautiful. And sometimes we just need that other pair of lens to see life of what it's worth living. And being on top of a mountain, I realized, man, I can do hard things. I took my time, and I maybe wasn't the fastest hiker or the fastest runner or the fastest person, but I myself, my 2 legs got me on top of a mountain. And that feeling that you wanted to quit so bad at many points as you're climbing on top of a mountain, you can bring that to life. Life is going to throw you curveballs. Life is going to be hard. That's part of life. But it's overcoming these challenges. It's overcoming these obstacles where the growth happens. And that's what the mountains, I noticed, okay, I just got a little bit more. And sometimes we don't know how much strength we have until we give ourselves that chance to push ourselves. And that's how the outdoors just changed my whole life. It saved my life. And that's why I'm on a mission to get more women out on the trails. I focus on trail running, but mainly women, because there's a lot of stigma of being by yourself, being a woman, that something's going to happen to you. There's a lot of fear that you can't protect yourself. But I want to break that down because I hiked so much by myself, and I'm still here, and I got so many more benefits rather than disadvantage of all the fear that has been put into our mind. So that's why I'm on a mission to get more women out on the mountains, educate them, and help them be out there.
Woo! Wow, what a way to wrap up that question. And I can't believe I just skipped over you two. Shame on me.
It's your first,
Literally blanked
it's
out.
your first broadcast. It's all good.
Yeah, be kind to your boy, please. All right, so now I'm sure the crowd and the audience out here would love to ask you guys a question or even individually. So we got Ray over here, part of the Just Track crew. Raise your hand if you would like to ask a question. Don't be shy.
Actually, thank you, Mary, for your wild newsletters. I really enjoy them, and that's the reason why I got introduced to Just Trek. But you turned a year wiser, so let's sing happy birthday to you.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Right? So everyone.
All right.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Justin. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, seriously, from the bottom of my heart. Like, this is the most special community, the SoCal outdoor community. Thank you.
Hold on.
Oh wow.
There's a
Oh,
little something right here.
it's part two's happening now. What's going on over there? It's a whole production.
None your business.
Oh my
Act
goodness.
surprised.
The wind is ruining something.
Sorry.
If I could only beatbox like Rozelle. Too shy now.
All right, maybe we shouldn't. Just join this up. You guys lighted that?
All right, here we go. Here we go. Birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Oh, that is gorgeous.
What the hell?
Yay.
Birthday, dear Justin. Happy birthday.
You see the picture? This is the
Oh my God. Wow, I love you and hate you for this photo.
Show people look at the photo. Everyone look at the picture. It's
You're crazy, guys.
All right,
That photo is taken on Mount Baldy on Bear Canyon.
We got one more thing on behalf of the Just Trekked crew. Matt is going to present it to you.
What's this? Oh, snap. We got to watch. Here we go. He's trying to get me to trail run, aren't you? You want me to trail run more? Yeah, I've been getting into my aspiring trail running journey. Actually, Daisy has been helping me out with that. She brought me on my first Mount Baldy trail run. It was a collab between Outdoor Adventure Plus. Shout outs to Juan out there.
Shouts to Juan.
I tell you, when I ran from the top of Mount Baldy Summit to the Notch restaurant, that was the most beat up I felt in like years. I collapsed literally in the Notch restaurant and just stuffed my face in the fries and the burger. Oh, actually, real quick, if you were on the podcast, stand up. Or actually, there's a bunch of people standing up, so that's not going to work. You know what? Raise your damn hand. So I want to acknowledge this real quick. Episode 1 over here. Episode 1, Mark Nieto, that started it off. Jet, come up here. Just Jet. Episode 27, I think. Mark Feichel, episode 16. Vic, stand up. Victor Martinez. Episode 37 and 55. Who else? Raise your hand. I can't remember y'all. Cisco, Hiker Fighter, stand up. Episode 51? Okay.
I'm surprised you know the
Ayumi
numbers.
Nicole, stand up. Chasing Peaks is in the house. Sweat so good. You got to stand up, Veronica. Don't be shy. Come on, who else was on the podcast? Oh, Linda, why are you being shy over there? She was episode 2. And the spicy mountain boy of the Just Trek crew, Matt. Sandstone Shaman, Machete Matt, vegan, master chef. Support his new pop-up, The Love Cafe. Who else is here? Who else was on the podcast? We definitely got to get Brandon on. Shout out to the Moss Sauce. Please sample their sauces. They got an avocado lime and a chipotle. They're also selling a few, right? I think there's wasn't somebody else on the show here? Well, I'm blanking out if anything. But Juan. Juan from Outdoor Adventure Plus. Daniel Zhu, I see you. You didn't raise your hand. Stop being shy. Get over here. He was episode 25. He's actually the videographer of the event. So.
Stance in the house.
All right. So what were we getting to? The live Q&A. Let's get to that. So who was gonna share a question? Ray, could you give the mic to the person with the raising their hand, wherever you are?
All right. Hey, so Robert, I had a question for you.
Yeah.
Because I am curious about how you do like your videography stuff, because I do videography a little bit with nature. I did a little bit for Weekend Sherpa a little bit, but basically I wonder how you like figure out carrying your equipment like on the trail. Like, what do you figure out with like which things you bring with you, because you know you're gonna do if that's what you planned, or like you bring just more than you need, or like what's kind of like your strategy with your equipment basically.
I usually just carry my trail cameras that do video, so it's really small. It's like, like only this size of a little plastic box, so it's not too much cargo to carry. So I usually just carry that, a jug of water, a lot of batteries, and my SD card reader and my laptop, and my binoculars, a thermal. Now, some of that stuff adds up after a while, and it depends. If I'm moving the DSLR, I have to tie it to the back of my backpack. Hope I don't shatter the glass, the plastic lens covering. But usually it's nothing more than just me and my liquids and my laptop and all that to check my cameras. And yeah, that's all I usually carry. But if I'm moving the DSLR and all that with the flashes on top of everything else, it's a really heavy load. So that's an exceptionally grueling day usually.
Yeah.
And I have to make sure I don't slip and fall and damage my equipment because it's kind of fully exposed on the outside of the top of my backpack, tied with my cable lock around me. So that's all I got. It's just me. But I like it that way. It's me time. I love just me being out there. I really can't take an assistant or someone with me to be out there for like 6 hours, 3 hours longer than expected, going through Poison Oak. So it's a lot to haul at times, but it's well worth it. So it's my only workout that I get. So it's not a problem.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to ask a question to the panel or to the individual? This is a rare moment, guys. Take advantage of this. This is a very, very diverse set of panelists up here.
So I have the mic. A question I like to ask everybody on the trail is, what is one non-essential item that you bring with you that you have to go on the trail with?
One non-essential?
Yeah.
That you have to go on the trail with?
Yeah.
Okay. You guys can go first.
I know you bring your sandwiches.
I am known to bring banh mi sandwiches up to the summits. How did that happen? I live next to a Forgione, which is like a Vietnamese restaurant, and I love banh mi's on the summits. If you haven't done it, I definitely recommend. It holds up pretty well for the most part.
Non-essential. Sometimes it's like a can of beer, because if I get some great footage, I want to pop it open on that peak and celebrate. I'm not like on a public road, so I don't feel that guilty. So yeah, that's kind of a non-essential, but sometimes it's so worth it when you get some great footage and you did all that grueling hiking. It's like, I can handle this beer and burn it off on the way back down. So that or a bag of pretzels are non-essentials.
Mine is really boring. Well, those could be essentials. Like if you were in trouble and you were stuck overnight, you'd have
In
some
my biased
pretzels.
mind, the beer is essential, but trying to
could
play
get
it
you through.
PC here, it's non-essential.
Mine is really boring.
essential.
I keep a very, very light pack, or I try to, especially when I go backpacking. But for day hikes, I'll put like my inflatable pillow in. And sometimes if I'm just like laying down, it's like better than scrunching up a jacket. And I love my inflatable pillow. And it weighs nothing. So that's my like guilty pleasure.
It's hard because I guess you can see it. I'm thinking like, do you mean like top 10 essentials aside from the top 10 essential list? Or non-essential, but Sour Patches, I love Sour Patches.
Yes.
That gets me through a lot, but Jesse has been like reducing my Sour Patches intake. But anyways, the other thing I just want to talk a little bit about my poop kit, just because I feel that it's a little different than what other people mostly do. It's baby wipes. And actually, I get the compostable ones only because I don't like the baby wipes smell. and I get this from Amazon. And then I get poop bags and hand sanitizer and a Ziploc bag is where I carry the baby wipes. Anyways, the reason I'm sharing this is because you always want to pack out your stuff, even paper, toilet paper. You don't want to dig it in inside the dirt. You always want to pack it out. But the reason why the poop bags, and people get surprised that I get the dog poop bags that I put all my dirty stuff in there, is because the poop bags are designed to hold smell in there, and people won't know. It's usually like a green color, so you can't see through it. So you can tie a knot, put it inside your dry sack. That's where I put all my stuff. Put it in there, and I feel like it's so clean and easy to just do your and clean your stuff and not feel like you're smelling what you're carrying with you. So doggy poop bags has made a big life change. I don't have a dog, but I always tell if anybody has extra dog poop bags, I'll take them because I'll use them. But yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
I'm going to jump on that. One thing I didn't tell you about Whitney is you have to carry real poop bags.
Yes.
And that is whatever you poop while you're on the mountain, you take out with you. So it's a little different, and it weighs more. But same concept is that you just don't want to. I think that when I take new hikers out, that is the single biggest question I get, like, where do you go to the bathroom? What do you do? And there's a technique and there's stuff that you want to bring. So I love that you brought that up.
And you get the best views. Just make sure you're not doing it around poison oak or stinging nettle, because then you have all sorts of other issues. But believe it or not, we're designed I know we're talking about poop, but squatting is the best way to poop. Like you should, if you don't have a
Squatty potty?
You're not doing it right, guys. You're making it life so much difficult for you. But no, seriously, especially when it comes to like long distance for any endurance, people get scared to eat on the trail because they're scared of having to go to a restroom on the trail. And I'm telling them, you can't hike or run on it. You can't run a car in an empty tank. You gotta eat. You gotta fuel yourself. So the quicker you get comfortable with doing your deed outside doors, the happier you'll be. So just get over it, make it comfortable, learn how to do it. You'll be fine.
I remember I asked Jesse from Midweek Hikers in the podcast, what's your greatest fear in the trail? He's like, taking a shit in my pants. And I was like, my jaw dropped. I'm like, yeah, that is pretty damn scary. Yes, you're right. Because what's the protocol? You got to have a little shovel if you can, or dig like 6 feet. Not 6 feet, 6 inches down. I'm not trying to bury myself. 6 inches in the ground. You do your due, covered up in the dirt, away from the trail.
Yeah, and water to about 200 feet, which is, nobody knows what 200 feet is. I tell them it's about 80 steps. So you walk 80 steps away from a water or trail. That's the best way to know.
And the human scat might not confuse the animals with the animal scat, so it's a good job packing it out. So
This is taking quite the tangent.
whole scat discussion.
All right. Anybody else want to ask a question to the panelists or to individuals? I know some of you guys have a few more out there. Ray got the mic in the middle with the orange Just Trek. Oh, there we go. Cisco Hiker Fighter.
So, guys, just want to say happy birthday, Justin.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you for what you've done and everything. It's been very inspiring, and I enjoyed hiking with you and talking to you, on the podcast. So I thank you for that.
Oh, real quick. So Cisco was the first ever video podcast we recorded out in Mother Nature. We did it at Kenneth Hahn. So if anyone wants to watch it, it's a full episode on YouTube.
So my question for you three guys is, what was the most painful and suffering hike that you've done, that you accomplished, that you did,
Think about that Sufferfest.
Okay, the first thing that came to mind was sea to sea to sea. So Cactus to Clouds and going back all the way down to the tram.
Oh, God.
By myself. And I remember, those I call them cholas, but they're not cholas. They're like choyas, the choyas, right? So I was like 3 miles way down from the car, and I rubbed my next to my calf towards it because I was already like tired. I was stumbling down. I rub it, and I don't know what I was thinking. I was tired. I'm already, so deep into this long adventure. I used my hand because I'm thinking like, I'm going to remove it with my hand. And then now I have the needles not only on my foot, on my leg, but on my hand too. So I sit on a rock and I just start crying. And I was like, this is the worst idea ever. I'm never going hiking again. And I'm sure you guys all had that experience or just like, this is dumb. I'm never doing this again. But that was really challenging. And I've said, this is something I'll never, ever do ever again. Cactus to Clouds is beautiful. Highly recommended for people if you want to look good for a solid challenge. But going all the way back down, it's so steep, so steep. Yeah, it was brutal. I never want to do that again.
Sea to sea to sea. I mean, sea to sea is considered one of the hardest day hikes in the world, according to Backpacking Magazine. So the fact that you had to add another sea is just unfathomable. On your knees. What else you got over there, Mary or Robert?
I just remember, in fact, I was hiking with yesterday. My friend Ted was leading a group of us. He does segments of the PCT. We were backpacking. We had done 17 miles. We had encountered just a really bad thunderstorm where we just had a, huddle. And so it's like, 17 miles. And we get to, we're doing 17 miles that day, and then we're going to set up our tents. And we're like nowhere. We're not anywhere near where we need to be. And he realizes we had 5 more miles to go. And I was like, you never want to play the tears card. But I was like, no. I said, can't we just stay here? And he goes, we don't really have a water source. We don't, we talked about it. Anyway, those last 5 miles, man, I was hating life. I was like you. I'm never coming backpacking. I never want to do this again. It's not fun. And of course, I still go out with Ted.
Damn. All right. Any other questions? Oh, Marley. We got Marley up here. Representing Trail Mothers. Little Marley.
Hi, happy birthday, Justin.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
So just to kind of opposite what Cisco asked, what is your most wondrous moment on the trail? Like the moment where you like got somewhere and you were like, damn, I love this.
The Ray Lakes. I was doing the whole Ray Lakes loop, and when I got to the bottom of the Ray Lakes, I looked at it and I was like, I don't like backpacking, but I was like, I would actually backpack and spend more time down here. It's one of the most beautiful places I have ever seen, and here in California. It's so gorgeous. The Ray Lakes. You could do it through Onion Valley, or you can go back through the oh my God, in Sequoia, by Sequoia side. But yeah, Ray Lakes, gorgeous. Yeah.
Well, I feel like a cheater when I talk about this stuff because I don't reveal locations ever. So I don't ever give names, and some of these parts are actually private areas of the forest that I get access to. So I'll drive in a few miles and then hike miles more. But just last September, during our intense heat wave, I took this walk for about 5 miles on this old service road and dropped into a canyon that I knew about for about 3 or 4 years. Finally made the effort to get there, but yet I didn't pack quite enough liquid, or snacks or anything like that. So on the way out, I kept cramping up, and that goes back to the other question about painful. It was painful. Like I had to stop and just lay on my back and yell at myself for being an idiot for not packing enough Gatorade and water. But getting to that canyon, which I don't name the canyon. But anyways, there's a whole nother world down there. I finally made the trek down there, dropped in. The whole journey was about 6 hours. And it's a lot, with the heat wave happening, no trees covering, and carrying all that weight on my back with my backpack. But going to that canyon, which I can't name again, I feel so shady saying that.
Always teasing
like
us,
such
man.
a snob.
I was trying to get a name out of you during the podcast. You're just like somewhere in the
feel like a
foothills
total
of
snob.
the San Gabriels, Lindora, Zeus. I'm like, come on, man, give me something.
I know, I feel so stupid saying that. But I can't. Anyway, we get into that canyon, No Name Canyon. It was amazing. It was a whole other world. Like, the first things I saw was, like, total bear country, signs of bears everywhere, stomp marks from their paws, beds they made, scat. I came across a couple of I think they're called slot canyon waterfalls. I know so little. A friend told me, like, oh, that's a slot canyon. I'm like, really? But when you see it, it's like this 40-foot drop of, like, this, like, zigzag slots of rocks going down. So that was a really fun moment last September where I just finally saw the canyon I dreamt about, and I still have cameras in there now, actually. So, and after getting a mountain lion 2 months of being in there, I'm more obsessed with that canyon. So that was pretty magical.
We're going to follow you.
And painful.
Follow you home.
Can we do a collabo group hike off trail?
If you sign out like a waiver or release form or something.
Oh, we got a lot of those.
An NDA.
Oh, that's funny.
So I think I would call this one of the most thrilling moments. And again, I'm back to Mount Whitney. It was about 3 years ago. I was coming off the summit, and I saw a guy coming down with 5 friends, 5 male friends, and they were kind of holding him or holding the back of his trousers, and he was walking very strange pace. So I caught up to them and I go like, what's going on? And I may have mentioned that I was a writer and I wrote for the LA Times, or maybe I did while I was interviewing one of them. Anyway, we were at about 13,000 feet. I've never done an interview at that elevation before. Got out my iPhone, and this guy's name was Jack Ryan Greener, and he had been paralyzed from the neck down a year and a half earlier, and all he thought about was getting well enough to hike Whitney. That was all his motivation. That's all he talked about. That's all he thought about. And I was like, wow, that is so crazy. He did a lot of rehab. He had a spinal injury. He did a lot of rehab. And not only did he do Mount Whitney, I had come the traditional way up Mount Whitney. You do a couple days backpacking or you do it in a day. He had done 5 days going out of Cottonwood Meadows. So he had really designed it was kind of permit driven. It was a very difficult journey for him. And I was seeing him probably at one of his worst moments. And it was just amazing to me that he could accomplish this. His friends were no less amazing. In fact, one of the guys was his ICU nurse who thought this guy was a goner when they brought him in. And he said, I never thought a year and a half later I would be hiking Mount Whitney with him. It wound up being a front page story in the LA Times. So if you Google my name and Jack Ryan Greener, you'll see the story. He is just, I always think of him when I'm doing something hard, because for him it's much harder. He, has use of certain limbs, but certain things don't work well. And certainly he was so fatigued. So watching him come off Whitney, coming down the 99 switchbacks was like, talk about feeling grateful. It was amazing. So that was my kind of thrilling moment.
Thank you for sharing all that. We had Ray Lakes, Unnamed Canyon, and Mount Whitney. All right, let's take one more question. Ray, could you assist, please?
Hello. Thank you. Daisy and Robert, you mentioned that you both have families, you have kids. What's your experience with hiking, trail running, and your kids? Do you want them to go with you? Do you get them involved? How happy are they about it? Or this is just you think that you don't them anywhere near around?
So my son, I started hiking. He was like 6 years old at the time. It was easier to get him out on the trails, but I think I traumatized him a little too young, and it was just not a great experience for him. He ended up getting like blisters and not having fun. So now he's 15 now, and he does not come with me. I always welcome, encourage him. He's like, you're crazy. He's not. It was hard because I wanted him to enjoy the outdoors. But seeing friends that do have kids, and I tell, how do you get your kids out there? And the best way is like, don't put it on. They will, when they want to come, they'll go with you. But at a really young age, like newborn is probably the best way to get them outdoors, because they won't know what's out there, the other side of things. But for me personally, my son doesn't join me out in the outdoors. I've taken him to the outdoors, like when we go to he's been to the Grand Canyon. He's not the Grand Canyon. He has been to the Grand Canyon. He's been to Grand Canyon. He's been to Death Valley, Joshua Tree, Sequoia. But we do like the sightseeing. You drive, see the beautiful, kind of what the tourist things that you do, but not the typical backcountry or trail hiking stuff. But he enjoys that, where we can drive, walk for 10, 15 minutes. He's like, all right, this is cool. But he's like, oh, the same trees are here than the trees over there. And I try to explain they're not the same trees. But that it's a different types of outdoors that I get to enjoy with him. And also my family, with my mom, my dad. Take them to different more places where you can still appreciate nature, but it's not like an actual hike. We've been to the Baldy, the Notch. We take the ski lifts, hang out there with snow play. But it's been... for me to be able to plan my own hikes and trail runs, especially when he was younger, I would start doing the sunrises because I had no other choice, and get home by the time he woke up. So he wouldn't even know I was gone. So it was kind of a lot of things. I was forced to do really early hikes and runs because I did have a son, or I do have a son. So I had to get back home before he were to wake up, and I could spend the rest of the day with him.
Well, I have 3 daughters, 21, 19, and 7. So the 21-year-old and 19-year-old, I would take them with me casually, 11, 10 years ago when I first started wanting to get outdoors more. But as I started getting more into the trail cameras and tracking wildlife, I started going deeper in the canyons where I really couldn't take anybody, including them or my wife. It's just too treacherous and dangerous, full of poison oak, which I'm immune to, thankfully, and I didn't know until I trekked through it naively, like a bear. And so they don't go as much anymore. You know, they're grown up, they're more independent, they're gamers, they're like being in the room. So my 7-year-old, who's becoming a gamer and a YouTuber, I try to get her out, you know, a few times throughout the year. There was a spot that I would go to with access to a service road that her and I can get to a remote wild area. Yet it wasn't too much for her to hike, you know, maybe a few hundred yards and that's it. Because, you know, she's only 7, so anything that hits me at the waistline hits her right in the eyes and the face, whether it's prickly, spiky, poison oak. So I'm trying to get my 7-year-old out there more, and I'm always like talking about wildlife. I'll show her what I got in my videos, ask her questions like, what's that? A mountain lion scrape. And I ask her if she's scared of lions and bears because I want to instill that in her not to be afraid. And hopefully she'll tell her friends that when they get older, they go outdoors too. So for me, it's mostly my 7-year-old. I'm kind of investing in like getting out more. When I get too old to check my cameras, maybe she'll want to go out and check them for me or go with me, I don't know, or carry on after I can't do it anymore, you know? You never know. So, yeah, that's how it is for me. The 2 oldest are kind of like, yeah, we'll go out there. Probably when their friends want to go and go outdoors, they'll go. If I want to invite them, they'll be like, really? Okay. But anyway, like I said, doing what I do, a lot of times I can't really take my daughters or any kids with me. It's just more about me, and it can be dangerous at times or go longer than expected, way more grueling than I thought it would be. So that's how it is for me as of now. So thanks for asking that.
Awesome. Thank you for asking that question. Oh, Summer, you want to? Okay, this will be the actual last question, and then we'll wrap this live podcast portion up and get the raffle contest on and start dancing.
Dope. Happy birthday. So, before, you were not just breaking, but you were in a...
Oh, it's for me.
Oh, yeah, it's
Oh,
just
okay.
for you. Hey, happy birthday. Hi.
All right.
Before you were in the breaking community, and you weren't just in the breaking community, so I can't just say before. You were, like, facilitating, and you still facilitate. You know, you came to this new thing. I think that's lovely, and I was wondering, you know, what were those... And by the way, I met, like, half of my friends through you, like, everything. What were those shared values between us dancers and the musicians and the hikers that you created us out of?
Say that last. What are the shared values?
Yeah, that brought us together, that you were like, I want this as my community, whether it's hiking, whether it's dancing, whether it's music.
We all just want to feel a part of something, you know? And to get through in life, I feel like, yeah, you can get far in life by yourself, solo, but everybody needs some kind of tribe, whether a tribe of dancers, a tribe of hikers, a tribe of bikers. Like, I think that's what also the pandemic just really highlighted is just we felt so isolated and we were like, we just yearned for some kind of like sense of belonging and community anywhere. So I think the shared values is just like pouring yourself into something creative, embracing that journey, pouring your energy into something that's very physical, because when you can improve your physical, it improves your mental, and also vice versa.
It sounds like there's a lot of togetherness, is what I hear.
Yeah, it's a lot of togetherness, and I love also fusing these different communities too, because like you said, we share a lot of the same things. We have a love for life, whether it's on the dance floor or maybe we're dancing out in the mountains. I know we mix it up too, but for a lot of us, community is everything. It's a celebration of each other. You know, getting to make new friends. You know, it's hard to make new friends when you're older as an adult too. I feel like these new hiking groups, trail running groups, like have provided. I see it here. It's actually right in front of me. A lot of you have met only in the past like 2, 3, 4 years. So community is like a massive value, and we get to meet each other through so many different activities. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, thanks. Happy birthday.
Thank you. So that will wrap up the live Q&A, and I just want to say to each one of you, where can we follow you? Like whether you have a website or on the socials, if you can plug that right now.
Elements of Daisy, all social media platforms, website elementsofdaisy.com, and my podcast, She Runs Trails podcast with Elements of Daisy.
I have my name is Parliament of Owls on Instagram and YouTube. On Instagram, you have to spell it with zeros because somebody had the name already. With the O's, I know, right? Anyways, Yeah, so I share all my work on there for the last 11 years. I had videos and pictures, even more videos than pictures, because that's kind of my main passion. So if you want to follow me on there, or robertmartinezphotography.com, I sell my photos that I have here. I have them online also, and some I don't have in person on my website. So yeah, please check it out, and hopefully you feel connected like I do to our wildlife.
I'm on Insta at Mary Forgione Hikes, kind of boring. It's Forgione. Yeah, and you can find me on Insta. That's about it.
Awesome. And also you can find, for Just Trek, you can find it on our website, justtrek.net, Instagram at just_trek. And I just want to say officially, like, everybody, welcome. I'm so glad to have you all for the Just Trek podcast 3-year anniversary celebration. Give your guys yourself a round of applause.